If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Tape Deck Media.
Hi there, I am Kelly Zemnikas, and I am the host of a brand new podcast called Holler and Wine. I'm a stand-up comedian, I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I genuinely love talking to people. And despite the fact that I do not care for the sound of my own voice, I've got a podcast now. So please come join us. We're going to have really good conversations. We're going to talk about cocktails, and I am going to give my guests a tarot card reading because why not? So join us on Holler and Wine. Hope to see you soon. Well, it's a podcast, so it's hear you soon? That sounds weird.
Ruddle me this, ruddle me that. We got the riddles that'll make you chat. Oh yeah, baseline stuff in the groove is tight. Get your funk on, we're rocking tonight. One more time.
Good morning, Ruddle Maniacs. Happy Monday to you. We're back for another episode of the podcast, Ruddle Me This. I am, as always, your faithful host, Taylor Ruddle. It must have been a minute since I recorded the podcast because that intro came out very unnaturally. Welcome back. Delightful to have you here. Got an absolute cracker of an episode for you today. These two guests, well, it's one podcast, but there are two people that do the podcast. They are in my trailer alliance, which you've probably heard the trailers playing at the end of the episodes. Today's guests are April and Leland. They run a podcast. Well, they do own it, I guess. They run a podcast called Crime to Burn, and they have been super supportive of me. April runs the social media. She quite often shares my my posts and everything like that. It's a super well-researched podcast. It's a true crime podcast focusing on arson and fire, everything like that. Criminal negligence is according to their Insta bio that I'm looking at right now. I'd been meaning to have them both on for a while, but, time zones, trying to figure out when a good time in New Zealand and America to record can be a little bit tricky, but we got it done. We recorded the episode, and it was really lovely to talk to them kind of properly outside of, the group chats that we're all in for the podcast promotion. There's a little bit of weirdness earlier on. I never refer to Leland by name until about halfway through the podcast, because it was my understanding that they don't refer to him by name on Crime to Burn. I think April mentioned that was an inside joke or something, and I was trying to stick with tradition. So I wasn't being rude and deliberately not naming him. I just thought I was participating in the inside joke of the show, but they do tell me at some point, no, you can use his name. It's all right. So yeah, that just in case you think, why is Taylor being so weird about the name at the start of the episode? That is the reason. A couple of quick plugs to get in. So this episode's dropping the 21st of April, which maybe you'll be listening to this, maybe you'll be watching WrestleMania. I will be watching WrestleMania today on night 2. Hoping Cody Rhodes beats John Cena for retaining his WWE Championship. And of course, 22nd of April, I've got the Holy Moly quiz night. 23rd, which is Wednesday, we've got the Moi Moi quiz. 24th, which is the Thursday, we have got the Laugh Cellar at the Austin Club, and we've got a special guest. We've got Mariah Bowden. I think it's Mariah Bowden, I think you would pronounce that. She is a Kiwi that's living in London, and I believe she is home for either gigs or she told me about 6 months ago. I slipped my mind as to why she's back, but she's been referred to as the femme fatale of funny, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what her stand-up is like. So yeah, come along. $10 on the door, cash and FPOS available. Then on the 25th, which is the Friday, I am doing Friday Night Laughs at the Good Times Comedy Club. I believe Mariah will also be there as well. I think her and I are sort of the co-headliners. I believe I'm doing 15 minutes. So, oh god, okay, I really gotta, I gotta figure out a good 15-minute set. So, yeah, 24th, 25th, some stand up there. You can catch myself and Mariah Bowden on either of those. We've also booked in another, this is sort of about a month away, we have booked in another session of Good Advice, Bad Advice. We had the first running of that last night at the time of this recording. If you don't know the premise, genuinely my therapist, Logan Robinson, and I, we decided to take advice from the audience members, and he'll give some advice, I'll give my take on it, and then the audience has to decide who gave the good advice and who gave the bad advice. We put it together with about a week's notice, and we got about 20 people in on a Monday night, which was really cool. So we're hoping with a month and a half, 6 weeks lead time, the next one will have a really, really big sort of audience in. So free to attend, starts at 6:30, and that is going to be on the 26th of May, which is a Monday. Mental Health Mondays. Alrighty, that's enough of the plugs. Let's get underway with the interview. So we did a Tiny Joys interview today. So please welcome to the show from the Crime to Burn podcast, April and Leland. Welcome to the podcast, to the two of you, April and some guy I understand you're referred to as. Great to have you both with us here. So I'll have given an intro beforehand. We can just get straight into the conversation here. So yeah, how are the two of you doing at the moment?
I'm good. It's been a little bit of a hectic day, but
Yeah, did you have a pet go to the vet or something?
Oh no, that was last week.
Oh, okay.
I had to take the cat to the vet, but
Oh no, what did they do to themselves?
no, she just has a skin condition that she's had on and off since she was born, and it's spring, and it always flares up. I think
that's
she's
right,
just
yeah.
allergies.
Yeah.
So.
My previous cat used to live like he pays the vet bills. I don't know what he what he used to get up to, but we're always finding like claw marks and bumps and bruises and stuff on him. So yeah, strange little creature there. So the time difference. It is 7 o'clock at night for both of you now?
Yes, and we are honestly exhausted.
Yes.
Even though it's only 7 o'clock at night, we have been up since the wee hours of the morning, thanks to the neighbors' sons' friends trying to toilet paper their house at 1 a.m.
Oh, is
So-
that, was there any particular reason they did that, or was it like a random one-off?
I think it was
Apparently,
a
I guess
college prank.
Ah, yes.
yeah, it was like a college prank or a senior prank. But where we live in a really rural mountain town, and
Oh.
our road is a single lane, and there's only one way in. So it's pretty brave to come back here and cause mayhem because you can get blocked in real easy. But it's the second time they've tried, and kids today are not they sneak around like an elephant in roller skates. Like
Yeah.
they're so loud.
Uh-huh.
I heard them pull in. Like I'm like, you're supposed to park in another street and
Yeah.
hike in for starter. Like I felt like I needed to give TPing instructions, but instead I
Yeah.
just chased them off.
It
Haven't you
sounds-
ever engaged in mischief?
Yeah, it sounds like you've got the system down. I heard the rumor that that's fairly common at Halloween in America. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, that's true.
It's actually, I feel like it's more common in the suburbs. Like I don't feel like it's
Yes.
super
Yeah.
common where we live, because we live in like a really rural mountain town with like a bunch of hunters and stuff. And so I think it's pretty brave of them
You don't want to be
to
creeping
go
around in the
sneaking
dark.
around somebody's house at night where people might think you have a nefarious intent in a town where it's full of mountain men and hunters.
And it
It's
probably
baffling.
takes a long time for any police or anything to get out there, right? Yeah.
No, I doubt
It
it. They're
does.
probably pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that's all right then.
It would just depend on where they are in the county when they got the call, I think.
That is true, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your podcast.
Sure.
You two operate you've got some of the best branding, I think, in the true crime genre. So very kudos
Well,
to you there.
Thanks, man.
So for those that don't know, Crime to Burn is true crime, but it's sort of like specifically on arson. And I have to ask, how did that idea come to you? What was the sort of inspiration or impetus to choosing specifically arson?
So my original co-host was my friend Jenny, and she did 10 episodes with me before she needed to back out. And it was actually her. She is the one that kept pushing me to let's do a true crime podcast. And my concern was it's such a congested genre already. There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, what can we really bring to the table that's not already there? And then I was like, oh my gosh, of course, I'm an actual real life fire expert. I could help people understand what investigators find in arson crimes. And I actually do teach for some professional organizations about historic fires and how they've changed modern building codes. So I thought, well, what if I applied that to arson cases?
Yeah.
And
So this was
that's how I got started.
this may be a naive question, but is that what you do for a living? Is you're a sort of fire investigator? Is that the right word?
I'm not a fire investigator. I'm a fire protection engineer. So I actually have a 4-year degree in all things fire.
Yeah.
Fire protection engineering is a degree you can get here in the United States. And there's only 2 colleges though that have it, so we all know each other.
Small world, huh?
So what I do is basically I joke with people that I'm like a lawyer for buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in and I interpret the building codes and what the intent of the requirements are related to fire protection and life safety. And there's a lot of times where buildings can't meet that intent. And then my job would be to engineer a system that would meet the intent, even if we can't meet the letter of the code. And I'll give you just one quick example. One project I recently worked on is a facility that they need to use pyrophoric gases, and pyrophoric gases burst into flame on contact with water or air.
Oh, right.
So
Okay,
obviously,
right, yeah.
if we follow the building code to provide ventilation and provide sprinkler systems, we could cause a really big explosion.
Oh my
So
God.
my job is to go in and engineer a system that would perform the same way for these types of hazards.
Wow. Is there a tip you could throw out there to the listeners of something that like is a really commonly overlooked thing in fire safety that people, because genuinely I've got a sort of comedian friend staying, and we have 2 doors. One of them you can unlock without a key, and the other one you need a key to lock. So I made sure to explain to him how to open the non-key door in case of something like a fire. But is there anything that you see people do a lot that you're like, oh, that's not good?
I actually made a reel about this last week. The biggest thing is just a lack of risk awareness. People don't really understand fully the risks of fire, so they're not thinking, oh, if I put my couch in front of this door and there's a fire, are we going to be able to get out?
Yeah.
Or if I don't water my Christmas tree, I'm creating a potential fire hazard. Or if I overload this, surge protector. So I think the biggest thing is just a lack of risk awareness and understanding how severe fires are. And when people ask me this question a lot, I usually refer them to the internet and tell them to go look at room and compartment fires on the internet, because that'll scare sense into you, because they grow so quickly.
Yeah.
You normally have on average from the time your smoke detector goes off to when your house goes to what we call flashover, which is a transition stage in a fire where a fire becomes really deadly. Like, you're probably not getting out if you're in the house when flashover happens. You might have on a good day up to 3 minutes, but most people would have between 40 and 60 seconds to get their kids and get out.
Oh
If
my
they have to move
goodness.
fast.
I remember reading somewhere that you have to sort of teach your kids that like firefighters are going to look really scary when they come to rescue you, so don't run from them. And like so Christchurch here, we had a sort of noteworthy earthquake a few years ago, and you can apparently train your pets to run to a safe place in the event of like a fire or an earthquake, because our cats used to run upstairs whenever there was an aftershock, and we would be like, no, that's the worst place for you to go, but we weren't sure how to convince them to go into our house. So yeah,
How do you convince a pet?
yes, yeah, exactly. Like, you can't reason with them, can you? You can't be like, hey, look, bud, like, think about this. But yeah.
Unless you throw them like a football, they usually don't pay any attention. Yeah.
Exactly. I think there was a way you can condition them to like treat this cage as a safe spot by putting treats and stuff in there. But yeah,
Electric shock. Oh, never mind.
So we should talk to April's fella a little bit. You were a musician, if I'm remembering correctly.
Once upon a time.
Ah, are you also in the fire trade nowadays?
No, never was in the fire trade. I was once a volunteer firefighter in like a rural environment,
Hmm.
but never anything fancy. I
Yeah.
have driven a fire truck though.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I was going to say, is there a reason that you know of that they use that specific dog, the Dalmatian, for fire? Like, I don't know exactly know what the dog does, but I know they often have one.
I actually do know the answer to that. So originally it was thought that more Dalmatians were deaf, and so they weren't scared of the bells and stuff on the fire trucks. And it's
That's
true
cool.
that Dalmatians, full-blooded Dalmatians, apparently do have a higher incidence of being deaf. But really, they used the dogs to run out. This was when the fire engines were pulled by horses, and they would run down the streets to scare the dogs and other animals and stuff out of the street so they wouldn't spook the horses.
Wow. That's really interesting. I never knew that. I always tried to make a stand-up joke. It was a sort of one-liner, and it was something to the effect of my nephew asked me for a Disney movie, something about a lot of dogs, but I accidentally got them a DVD called Dalmatians 101, A Guide to America's Hardest Working Fire Dogs or something like that. I could never really get it to work, but the miscommunication is going, there's 101 Dalmatians versus
Not as
Dalmatians.
magical, but probably more informative.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Not as fun, but definitely you'd learn something there. So should we get into some of your tiny joys? Who would like to go first there?
Is kitties and beer two things or one thing?
Is what and beer, sorry?
Are kitties and beer two things or one thing?
I guess it depends on how soon after, are you experiencing one or the other? Because I mean, if it is a simultaneous thing, then I think that could be one item, yeah.
Let's count that as one.
Okay. Is that genuinely the first one on your list?
I think it, yeah, of course.
What is your favorite brand of beer to have when you when you're engaging in some titties?
Whatever's cold. I'm not really paying attention to the taste of the beer at that point, I don't think.
Yeah, I think your mind would be somewhere else, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just be cold. That's fine.
Yeah, is that a beer you're drinking now? It looks like a Sprite to me.
It's spelled a little funny. It's not though. It's a little sleeve.
Oh, I see. It's not a. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know how much more we can expand on that one. Do you have any comments, April?
No, I knew that one was coming.
You had a feeling that something like that
I
would
know.
pop in. Well,
Mhm.
let's move on to your first one then, April.
My first tiny joy is fluffy chicken butts.
Fluffy chicken butts. Do you raise chickens?
One of mine is happy chicken sounds. So like two of
Oh,
ours
they go together.
That does go together, yeah. Tell us more a little
Yeah.
bit. How long have you had chickens for?
For not quite 3 years.
Mm.
We got chickens. We only have three right now, which is fine. Because there's only three of us and we don't eat eggs every single day.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's a good system.
but we have there's something about like specifically about the Rhode Island Reds. We have a Rhode Island Red and a Cinnamon Queen, which I think is like some sort of hybrid of Rhode Island Red.
Mhm.
And they have the fluffiest back ends. Like I just want to touch them and note that they don't really like to be touched anywhere, much less their rear ends.
I'm gonna
But,
just Google that while you're talking. So Rhode Island
Okay.
Red is the
Oh,
is
you're
the
gonna
name of
wreck
the
your
chicken, is it?
algorithm.
Yeah, because how did, oh, interesting. So that type of chicken is really common here in New Zealand. It's this kind of brown thing, or sort of red brown thing.
Oh, looks like a Rhode Island Red.
Ah, well, it's how similar our countries are in some ways. And so what was your like, how did you decide to get into rearing chickens? Is it something you've always done, or was it I've heard the prices of eggs in America are going crazy at the moment, so you might have got in at a good time there.
It's something
Well-
that I'd done before. And when we bought the property, I have an uncle that has a ranch nearby and he had some extra chickens. And so it was like, I didn't try to have chickens, but it just kind of happened.
Chickens found you.
Sometimes chickens happen.
I'm curious about this because I've always sort of liked the idea of having chickens. Are they difficult to care for, or are they pretty self-sufficient?
They're not hard.
They're not hard. They're pretty self-sufficient, but when you do have to care for them, it's an experience. Once you figure out how to handle them and stuff, it's fine. But like for me, like the first time I had to try to catch a chicken by myself, that was a tough.
Yeah, I've
It
seen
was
Rocky.
fun for me to watch.
Well, and the thing was, is it was running away from me and running away from me, and I just needed to catch one of them. I didn't like they had mud balls stuck on their claws, and they will get really hard, and they can't get them off. So I was
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
work them all off. And so I was trying to catch any of them, and I couldn't catch them. And I bent over. Finally, I had one cornered, and one just flies up and lands on my back. And I'm like,
Wow.
I've
I got
been
a
running
picture of that.
around trying to catch them. Yeah,
You finally corner it, and then it unveils
gets
a
on my
new
back.
secret move. Yeah. How have you discovered an easier method for catching them since? Like, did you get a net or?
Yeah, they really like mealworms. So I just get a handful of mealworms, and then I've taught them to always eat mealworms out of my hands. And so when they come over to get them, I can just pick
You can just
one
grab
up.
them.
And then they don't even really mind being picked up
They're real
anymore. because-
docile now. Yeah, you can just
Yeah.
pet them. They're cool.
So they sort of have to get used to you, and then you can kind of grab them and stuff. How long
If you
did
handle
Yeah.
them a lot, they get used to it.
Yeah. How long do chickens typically live for?
Like 5 years or something,
Oh,
probably.
okay.
It's a little breed dependent. Like some of the breeds are
Yeah.
like silkies, they'll just die because it's like a Tuesday.
A little
A
too
warm
cold.
breeze blew in. Yeah.
But like more the hardy ones, like the Rhode Island Reds and the
Leghorns.
Leghorns, they're pretty
Mm,
hardy.
pretty hardy. Do they need a lot of space? Like, you just kind of let them go in the backyard, right?
Technically, I think they only need 2 square feet per chicken. We give them a whole
I
lot
think
more
it was
than that.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was actually 3 is what our county
It's something
required.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's something ridiculously small. We give them a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, yeah.
But we can't let them free range here because
No.
we have
They'll
a
run
hunting
away.
dog and our neighbors have a hunting dog, which is why the kids can't sneak into toilet paper the houses because all the dogs are here
Yeah.
and they're really to drive off predators, but they go crazy if
Yeah.
anything strange is around here, but they would go
Yeah.
after the chickens.
I suppose they would. And then, so this is another naive question, but do they lay an egg every single day?
A lot of the times they do. In the wintertime and stuff, they don't lay every day. They slow down.
Yeah.
And some people like try to put extra lights on them and force them to lay because it has something to do with the cycle of the sun and everything.
Yeah.
But we don't do that. We just let them rest in the winter.
Well, that sounds, yeah, it's definitely been on my list of things that seem like a good, like, are they expensive to feed? Do they feed themselves? Like, how does that work?
Well, we treat ours really well. We got
Yeah.
some spoiled chickens.
Yeah.
We probably, I don't know, they probably got chicken diabetes or something because we get them really good grain and a bunch of insects. Yeah,
Oh, I love it. Do you have any other animals apart from the dog and the chickens?
a couple of
We have
cats.
2 cats,
Love cats.
which is I had my cat since before we got married,
Uh-huh.
but my husband is allergic to cats. And so I had 2 cats when we got married and one of them died. And that one was the one that my daughter would let pick her up and carry her around and stuff. And so when that cat died, my daughter was after us. Can I have my own cat? Can I get a cat? Mom's cat doesn't like me. And so the poor guy who is allergic to cats still has 2 cats.
Still 2 cats.
And my cat, who hated everyone on earth except me, decided now that she likes him better than me. She uses me as like a springboard to get to him, and she wants
Yeah.
to like nip herself into his beard,
Yeah.
and
I've
he's
heard-
allergic to her.
I've heard that's called something like the main and the spare or something like that, is the cats always have their kind of spare human, which they'll go to if no one else is available, but they have their kind of preferred one. Do you have any,
I'm
like,
spare.
you're the spare?
Yeah, I'm happy with that role.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too unhappy with it either. Do you have any animals that you would like to own as like a kind of, if you had the space, or, if physics and everything wasn't an issue, are there any animals you would like?
Oh,
If I
yeah.
didn't have to take care of it,
Yeah.
if somebody else was here to take care of it, I think fainting goats are hilarious.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had a little goat. One of my neighbors, when I was, because I'm a little bit like you guys, I was living in a very rural, but I think rural for us is like much smaller population than the States maybe. But we had a neighbor that had a goat, and those little tin, it's like a triangle shaped house that they live in. We always were fascinated with the goat's house, and like I don't know exactly why, but that seems to be the same shape that all goats, their little house is like a little triangle shaped house there, which I don't know, that stuck in my mind from walking past this goat going to school every morning.
You know why they build them with that shape?
Why is that?
because goats always like to climb on top of everything. And so if you put those angles, oh, seriously.
Yeah, no, that
They'll
makes
just sit there and
perfect
fight
sense.
over that high spot all day long.
Yeah, so you've got to give them no option to go up somewhere high, and then they won't do it. That is really
Well,
fascinating.
make it somewhere else, not on the thing you're trying to not let them destroy, right?
Yeah. I think one of your hunting dogs just walked in behind you there.
That's
Yeah, he's going to
Winston.
be in and
Winston, that's a great name. So let's go. Have you got a second tiny Joe on your list there, April's fella?
out.
Are you going to let him know your name?
I'm not sure if we ever do we refer to him by name. I heard the law was that he never gets
Oh,
named.
I do. Not on the show, but I actually do have a name.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny that we're talking about it because when I was very small, I got picked on a little bit because I have an unusual name for around this country, you know. My name is Leland.
Leland.
And when I was small, the kids couldn't come up with anything better than, "Hey, Leland, why don't you go to New Zealand?"
Look at
And it
that.
was really, in retrospect, it was really awful. But at the time, it just, oh man, it crushed me. Like, what is this awful New Zealand place that they want me to go to? It must be akin to hell or something.
Well, yeah,
and then I saw Lord of the Rings, and I was like, you idiots! I'd love to go to New
It
Zealand.
sounds like a great place to go, yeah. I always used to get Taylor the Sailor, and that, again, for some reason was, it was devastating. Did you get any nicknames when you were a kid, April?
Well, there's not a lot of words that rhyme with April. So I got Ape the Grape or just Ape.
Yeah.
And but the thing is nobody would call me that if Leland was around. Because Leland and I have known each other since I was 6 and he was 8.
Have you
and
really?
When we were little kids.
Oh,
yeah,
my
when we were little
goodness.
kids at the same school,
Wow.
I would be getting upset. The kids were teasing me and he would just walk over into the area and everyone would stop.
Wow. So you two have known each other for pretty much your whole lives then.
Yeah, that's true.
That must be an interesting dynamic for a relationship because you have a lot of like, hey, you remember when this happened kind of things to call on, right?
Well, we have a lot of those from when we were little kids, but when I was like, I remember if I was 12 or 13, he's a military brat. So they moved and we lost touch for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And then reconnected and got married really fast. And so we, but like, it's funny because like my mother-in-law, she babysat me when I was a kid. So she was like a second mom to me. So like when his mom gets mad at us, like I know a lot of people are like, oh, the in-laws. And I'm like, mom's mad.
Yeah. There's an extra layer of authority to that, isn't there? I've noticed this as well as when I run into like a previous boss or something, I sort of revert to in my mind, however old I was when I was working for this person, even though like realistically now we're both just two adult men, and there's no power imbalance there, but something about you just sort of go right back to then, don't you?
That makes sense. So you go back to that personality that you created for that situation. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you do in the military, Leland? Were you like any particular
I did nothing in the military. I spent my life on and off of military bases and stuff and moving all around, but I never served. I'm a brat. That means that my dad served. My dad is a 20-year Navy veteran. And so
you just had to go with,
It's part of my lifestyle, but I never actually enlisted or did anything like that.
Wow. What was that like? Did you enjoy that, or would you prefer to be able to put down some roots somewhere?
I don't know what else to compare it to. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. Right. It's much easier for me to make friends wherever I go. I can do that pretty fast because I'm used to doing it, and it's easy for me to ghost people too because hey, there's going to be more friends later. I
Part
already
of
know.
life, isn't it? Yeah. Do you watch Jack Reacher, the TV show?
I haven't.
His kind of he also enlisted, but he was a military brat growing up, and so his whole thing is he just kind of wanders around the States and he doesn't really settle in one place. But I don't know, that would have been relatable if you check that out. But
I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah, it's very, very good. I forget, did we get onto your second joy, or we talked about the name? So what was your second joy?
I gotta check my notes.
I think it was
I got
Leland's
you
second
for a
one.
minute. Yeah, it's my turn anyway. You're interrupting me.
I'm sorry.
No, anyway, I like to play a VR first-person shooters.
Oh.
And for the last several months, I've been playing a game called Zero Caliber 2. And one of my small joys is the special sound it makes when you shoot a little kid in the head. It's like money.
Money.
Yeah, it makes
Like
a
a
little coin sound, like ka-ching.
like the Super
Nice.
Mario, the coins. So the
Well, not quite
VR.
like that. It's more like a cash register thing, you know.
Wow. I
Yeah, it's
wonder why.
nice.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting
It's
choice by the
rewarding. It's
developer.
like dopamine and oh
Yeah.
man, all the yeah.
Is the game just shooting children, or is it?
No way. I don't really. They sound like children, some of them, and those are the ones that are especially satisfying to shoot in the head. But like, I don't really like have any, preferences. I'll shoot everybody in the head. It's
Everyone, yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll shoot you all equally.
yeah. I've heard that the difference between going from like a mouse and keyboard shooter to a VR shooter is suddenly you can look in one direction and be firing in another direction.
Right. I'm never going back. I'm never going
You
back
can't
to
go
a flat
back.
screen. I can't go back. No,
Yeah,
I'm done with
'cause
it.
it would feel like almost going from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, right?
I've come out of the cave. I no longer see just shadows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Is it like I've seen great videos of people that put the headset on and then they sprint full speed into a wall or something. Did you have to get used
I
to that in the beginning?
There was a learning curve, I will admit there. Yeah, I did break a few things and I learned not to play in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea. So how does it work with your
Yeah.
feet? Do you have to actually walk around, or is it kind of like
A
you've got
little
to,
bit.
yeah,
It's mostly head oriented, right? So like you can move with your controllers and move by turning your head. And the combination of the two, you can go really fast.
yeah,
But like, yeah, you can walk around a little bit, but it's not like you're running and laps
yeah,
around the room like Roger Rabbit or
yeah,
something.
yeah, you don't want to be doing that. Have you
I
ever,
can't play it. I get motion
I was
sick.
going to say, have you ever played them? Yeah, we played a very primitive, I think it was an Oculus Rift or something, and depending on the game, I would get motion sickness or not. But then when that immersion, there's almost like a Goldilocks zone of immersion where it feels super real. Like I remember we were playing a demo game where you're sitting on top of a battlements in a castle and you're shooting arrows down at like soldiers running towards you. And I remember getting a little bit of vertigo because it felt like I was actually looking down this kind of wall, and I thought, yeah, that's magic right there when it happens. Doesn't always happen for me, but yeah, it's fantastic.
No, my brain was completely fooled for a long time,
Yeah.
and it still can get a little bit fooled. Like my sympathetic nervous system definitely has a reaction when I'm in there,
Yeah.
and I think that's actually very important. It's like exposure therapy or something. But after a while, you start to get used to it, and you can jump off of buildings and feel very confident. And like when you see a magazine drop away from your rifle in midair, like you get this sense of vertigo, and then you have to force yourself to put another one in and work the action. It makes you focus a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that especially people with complex trauma, they would do well to experiment with that.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's a very safe way to sort of put yourself in these.
You can always take it off.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do you do a lot of gaming outside of VR stuff?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. You can't go back. Well, fair enough. What about you, April? Are you much into video games?
No, but believe it or not, we actually use VR cameras to film full-scale fire testing. So we use the big cameras so that when we go to conferences and stuff, or we present findings to fire marshals and things, we can actually put them in the fire to see what happened in our full-scale fire testing.
Wow.
And so when we were testing the system out at my last job, we downloaded like a roller coaster app to play with, and we were just pushing each other around in wheelie chairs while they were in the roller coaster game.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got in trouble, but I was.
So if I'm
That's
understanding
fun.
that correctly, they put a camera in a fire that you can then experience through VR to see what it's like to,
Yeah.
is that too, so you can see what's failing in the building first and everything like that?
What a lot of people don't realize is like fire and building code requirements are reactive.
Yeah.
And so typically we add new requirements because we had a fire that we didn't control or we didn't do a good
Yeah.
job at. And like
Yeah.
to give you an example of something that we're doing a lot of full scale fire testing on now, lithium ion batteries. We
Mhm.
still don't have good criteria for how to store them, especially in manufacturing facilities where they're storing them in rack storage, because racks tend to, the materials at the top level keep the water from reaching the materials right below it.
Yeah.
So we'll go and build basically like a portion of a warehouse in a burn lab and then set fires and see what happens. And we'll test different protection criteria to see what's the most effective way to protect this. And then that research will then go to the National Fire Protection Association
Yeah.
for the code committees to incorporate into code.
That is
And
really
that's
fast. I never thought about it, but fire testing would really change with the times because I remember reading somewhere that apparently New York City used to be a really high risk of fires because there was always horse manure around and then maybe pails of straw or something for the horses to eat, I think. And apparently there was a real problem of fires catching on both of these two flammable things.
well, anytime you have congested areas, people on top of each other, before the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, which was a really famous fire that happened in New York City,
Hmm.
the focus of fire codes wasn't preventing your building from burning down. It was from preventing a citywide conflagration.
Yeah.
And so we really saw a shift starting with the Triangle Shirtwaist fire, where the codes started to look at individual life safety and individual property protection versus just trying to prevent a citywide conflagration. So, fire and building codes, they shift over time based on what we learn and new technology. I mean, before, obviously, lithium ion batteries had to come into existence and become popular before anyone's going to realize what a fire risk they are, because
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know. So all fire and building codes are reactive.
Because I think, am I correct? And the reason they call Chicago Second City is because it burned down and then they rebuilt it in the same spot.
Yeah, well, they had the Great Chicago Fire, and there's, it's obviously up for debate of how it started, but the
Uh-huh.
most commonly told story is the Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over a lantern in the barn.
Yep, I heard about that. Yeah. Yeah, because that used to be a real thing where in London, I think London's burned to the ground several times in the past, and yeah,
From cows?
yes, those you can't trust them. So we just hit the 10 minutes
Why do you think
Zoom.
they're so respected in like Hindu culture?
Yeah, yeah.
People burn you down.
Yeah, well, you can't, I think you can touch them. I can't really remember. We just hit the 10-minute Zoom thing. So I've got some rapid fire questions for you both here, if that's all right. And they're sort of interesting, thought-provoking ones. So let's go through some of these. First one here. Have you both ever heard of the concept of a struggle meal before?
A
Is that
struggle
like
what?
when you're a college kid?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, a meal that you used to make when you didn't have a lot of money or you're waiting for pay week, but then even when you do have money, you'll go back and make it again. So like a really common one is like ramen sandwiches, that kind of thing. Do you each have a struggle meal that you quite like?
Oh,
I've
I
got one that's
definitely
got a
have mine.
story, but yeah, hers is probably better.
Yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
Mine was actually one on my list of tiny joys, and it's
Yeah.
grilled cheese sandwiches.
Yeah,
Whenever
yeah.
I feel bad, whenever I'm sick, anything, I always want a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yes. Do you have a preferred cheese that you put in it?
I have graduated to extra sharp cheddar,
Hmm.
but I mean, for decades, I was all American cheese,
Yeah.
the packaged processed cheese stuff all the way. But yeah, I prefer sharp cheddar now, but I'll still eat it with American cheese if it's offered.
Yeah. I'm jealous of the types of cheese you have on offer. And like, I think what is that one? It's like sort of orange and a pale yellow color together. Is that like Monterey Jack? I think, is it an American cheese?
So Monterey Jack is like a white cheese, and then we've got cheddar, which is like the yellow, and then we've got like Colby, which is also yellow.
Yeah.
And then you can get
And
Colby
then mix the
Jack, which
Colby
is like
Jack.
Yeah.
Monterey Jack and Colby mixed together.
We only recently started getting what I think is an American cheddar here in supermarkets in New Zealand. Our brand we had Colby for years, and then we also had another one called Tasty Cheese, which I think it's kind of like a sharp cheddar. Um,
Is it
but none-
actually tasty or is it ironic?
No, it's my favorite. It's definitely tasty.
Okay.
Yeah. But I remember that none of these cheeses melt that good when you're making a hamburger, so it's
I don't
great that
trust
now
the
you can
cheese
get.
that doesn't melt.
Yeah, yeah, it does melt, but it's also crumbly. So yeah, it's not the best. But then Leyland, did you have a struggle meal that you like?
Before I was all the way an adult, I lived in Florida and I was very broke. I was working as a bar back at a bar and washing dishes and stuff and couldn't afford anything. So I'd pick oranges off my neighbor's trees and I still eat a bunch of oranges every day, like 4 pounds of oranges.
Wonderful. Okay, another question. Here's a good one. Do you have a skill that other people would be surprised to learn that you can do? Like I can do the Rubik's Cube, for example.
Oh, cool.
I can knit.
Yeah. Is that what's your proudest knitting achievement? Is there anything you've made that you've been really proud of?
I made my husband, we got married in December, and I made him this really beautiful scarf for our wedding, because we got him a cashmere coat to go with his fancy suit, and
Nice.
I made him this white or this cream colored white scarf, and it was a really, really intricate design. It's like it still looks masculine. Not a lot of knitted goods look masculine, but it does, and that was my favorite.
Awesome. And then what about you, Leyland?
What was the question?
Do you have a skill that people would be surprised that you?
Probably not. I show off a lot, and so everything I can do, everybody knows all about it.
They're like, yep, that's on brand. Excuse the pun there. I think is that
Friends can't come over. I'm like, hey, check out my swords. Hey, you want to go in the backyard and shoot stuff? Like, oh yeah.
Fantastic. Here's one. So, are you watching anything right now, like a TV series or a movie, anything like
Do
that?
not tell him. That is top secret crap. I hate that show so much. All right, now I made my disclaimer. You can tell him.
Okay.
I found a show called Love Off the Grid.
Okay,
And
I've
it's
heard of
these
it. Yeah.
people that, these people live off the grid, and they're like trying to, some of them are trying to rekindle an old relationship, or some of them are trying to find love with somebody that they've just met or that they've been involved with, for a short while. And
Mhm.
I think it's fascinating. It's trash TV. It's definitely,
Yeah.
like, and I know we don't normally watch very much. We hardly ever watch TV at all. But when we do watch TV, we like shows like Alone and Naked and Afraid
Yeah,
and
yeah.
those survival shows. And
Yeah.
so this is sort of like gives you that like little bit of like trashy element with
Yeah.
these people that think they're living off the grid. I mean, I guess technically, they live on a homestead and they
I can't
don't.
help but see it from like a production standpoint. I'm like, hey man, I know there's 9 people standing on the other side of this camera. What you're
Yeah.
doing is really awkward and strange.
Yeah. So when they say love off the grid, it's like people that aren't on social media, not like in cities, and do they move? Do they move out to this homestead together and then sort
I
of
think
try to make it work?
ironically they are on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. I think it's actually like there's different couples, but like to give you an example, one guy, they live on a mountain, and they get their water from an underground stream, and their power's generated through solar. Like they're not connected to power, they're not connected to city water. They are self-sufficient.
Yeah.
It's pretty
to different
contrived. I
levels.
think the writers probably have access to some really good drugs.
That is a really fascinating way. It's funny that reality TV can really take anything and be like, yep, we can make a show out of this, can't we?
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, that's good to know. I might have to check it out then. Okay, another question for you two is if you could go back in time and try any food from history, is there a food you think you would like to go back and try?
The forbidden rice in China.
The forbidden rice.
That purple stuff. Yeah, only the emperor is supposed to eat it. The emperor's forbidden. Yeah, I'll go and eat that.
You go for that? Very good. What about you, April?
Gosh, I can't think of anything like historic that I was always like, oh, I wonder what that tastes like.
Yeah.
I guess, the only thing I can think of lately, I don't know how historic it is, that I've actually said I wanted to try is I've never had figgy pudding. And it's in like all the Christmas stories and stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
But we have a
I don't
fig tree.
think I have either.
Yeah.
We do have a fig
me
tree
neither,
now.
yeah. It's just figs made into a pudding, right?
I don't even know.
Yeah,
I'll have to Google it.
I
We'll
don't
have to
even
Google
know
it
either.
later and do some research, yeah.
We'll really
Wonderful.
screw our algorithms up.
Okay, here's a good one. Do you have a sick day ritual, like a thing you do every time you get sick to either help yourself feel better or just as like a comfort thing?
Jägermeister and Red Bull.
That's one way to do it.
For me, it's grilled cheeses, but I don't ever get a sick day. I work at home full time, so I don't really have an excuse unless I'm like so sick I can't pick up my head off the pillow. I would rather be sick at my desk working than spend a day and be able to take a day off another day where I can go do something fun with my family. So I don't usually take a sick day.
Oh, I see. So you're thinking about it from an economical standpoint to maximize your off days. Yeah. Would you say you're an active relaxer?
I don't know what that means.
It kind of means like you have trouble just sitting on the couch and doing nothing. You need to always kind of be doing something to feel like you can relax.
Yes.
I am
Tell
always
See,
the
like
truth.
nodding, yeah.
Confess.
Okay, so
Confess.
I'm really good at sitting down and doom scrolling on my phone, which is
Uh-huh.
basically doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
Nothing useful. But if I'm not working at my day job, I spend pretty much all of my spare time working on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
don't that's my hobby and my passion, and I
I'm not
found
sure people understand the hours she puts into these episodes. It's serious business.
Yeah. It's people really don't get the sort of extra work that all the stuff that, how long are your episodes? About an hour and a half, I think, were they?
well,
I
it
think they
varies, but
average a little less than an
generally,
hour or something.
Less than
yeah,
an hour, yeah.
generally, yeah, a little less than an hour. But what the thing is when we relaunched the podcast last June, we had spent a long time away from it, and I was like, what do I want to bring to the table? Like, what do I
Uh-huh.
really want this to be? And I didn't want it to be something you could get from a Google search. I didn't
Mhm.
want it to be something that anybody could have brought, because that's not really using my expertise. So, I'm chasing down court records. I'm on the phone with people that, were involved in the case or knew somebody was involved in the case. I'm spending mortgage payments on court record. Court records are expensive here in the United States. I don't
Oh,
know what the
right.
process is in New Zealand, but they're expensive.
I
And
would not be able to I would have no idea where to even start getting court records.
and yeah, I'm like reaching out to people and reading books. And so I would say for each like series that we do, I probably like the series that we just finished, which is only 2 episodes, I probably easily put in 20 to 30 hours in just the research side before we even recorded or edited it.
That's what I definitely don't envy about true crime podcasts is you have to do so much research to make it good. Like I know, have either of you been on the One Nothing podcast?
Not yet, but I am supposed to be on it in the near future. But I don't want to tell you too
Awesome.
much because I don't know if Amanda's like let anyone know what we're going to be talking about.
Wonderful. It's a lot of fun. I was a guest on it last year sometime, and again, they do a lot of. It's like Amanda just has this way of finding cases that like not everybody else has covered, and you sort of like, oh, I've never heard of that. So yeah, that you should be in for a treat there. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Do either of you have a favorite quote?
Sort of.
Do you have a favorite quote, honey?
I don't know if it's a favorite, but I keep it back here on the bar. And it says, if you're not willing to learn, nobody can help you. But if you are determined to learn, nobody can stop you.
That's a great quote.
Zig Ziglar that said that. I had an opportunity to do a little job for Zig back in the day. So
Wow.
that quote means something to me.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic quote. And
I don't know that I have a favorite quote, but I have a sticker that has like a saying on it that I love, and it says, but if not, he is still good, which is sort of like a rewording of a Bible verse, just saying that, even if God's answer is no right now, he is still good, like at everything for his glory.
Right.
And it's on the front of my planner, so I see it every day.
Yeah.
And so that's probably I don't know that I have necessarily a favorite quote, but that's the sticker that I see every day and remind myself every day that.
That's a perfectly acceptable answer for that one. Yeah, it's great. Oh, here's one. Do you have, I mean, I feel like I know what April's answer might be, but do you have a favorite Wikipedia rabbit hole that you've gone down?
Honey, you go first. I have to think about this. I have lots of options.
I don't know if I want to embarrass myself like that. Lately, I'm an aspiring director, so I've been writing a Western, and so I've been down the rabbit hole of the transitionary period of 1900, like all the things that happened in the Americas, basically in that year. There's a lot that you can put like 2 years behind it or 2 years in front of it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things you can say about it. And I've been down that rabbit hole a lot.
Yeah.
Finding out how technology really changed. That was the first year they had an electric train in New York City. And like,
wow,
there are people still riding horses with 6-shooters too. So it's like all this new kind of technologies thing.
I've heard it was a fascinating time when the cars and horses were still on the roads together. Like it was, you could see both of them at any point.
Well, if you go out to the East Coast, it's still happening.
Is it like Pennsylvania or something? Is it Amish country?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the county that Leland and I grew up in is a very large Mennonite community, which is sort of like, I joke that it's Diet Amish, which that's not really what it is.
Diet
but-
Amish.
Yeah, it's like Amish people that have VCRs, right?
Yeah.
So
And
they have
so
some
it was really
technology.
common to see horse and buggies on the road.
I love it. Yeah, my hometown actually, it wouldn't be on the road, but you would quite often see people riding a horse, like, just like a for fun, I guess, alongside the roads. Um, my father's a big Western guy. Do you have a favorite Western film? Maybe like a top three favorite Western films?
Um, I don't know. There's obviously the trilogy.
Yeah.
You've got A Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and then that other one, whatever.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I think that one is.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like watching goofy ones that are kind of low budget, low rent. Just people trying to do their best with what they have, and I don't know. I like seeing what they come up with, seeing all the cringy ways that they're trying to be creative, and then they still have the brass monkeys to put that out there to the world. That's great.
I recently just discovered the Trinity movies. Are you familiar with those?
I don't think so.
So there's two of them. I think they're spaghetti westerns, and they're called something like They Call Me Trinity is one of them. And the main character is a really interesting one. He's like his characterization is that he's lazy, and so he has a horse which he has this, like, I'm not even sure what it's called. Like if a paramedic will carry you on a stretcher, I guess. Yeah, he has kind of like that, and it's tied to his horse, but it just drags along the ground, and he just lies on the back of that, and then his horse takes him around, and he's this sort of lazy, easygoing guy, but then also he's also, the deadliest gunfighter in the world, or that kind of thing.
I'm watching that.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I quite enjoyed it. Okay, next question. Here's one. I'm gonna answer for you. I'm gonna say yes, probably. But do you think he would survive a zombie apocalypse?
I would be a warlord in a zombie apocalypse.
He would.
Yeah.
If I survive, it's only because I'm married to him.
Well, that's by hook or by crook, right?
So yeah, but I'd like to think that I'm like diplomatic enough, but I don't think the diplomacy is going to help.
Beyond a certain point,
it's be
perhaps
brute
not,
strength.
right? Yeah. Well, you've got your chickens. You're self-sufficient in that regard, and so you were saying you lived in a fairly remote town. Are there other things that you have to do to sort of be kind of, off the grid? to an
We're not off the grid. We can get a pizza
We're-
here, man. We're not off the grid at all.
We're not off the grid.
That's all I
But
need.
I don't have a thyroid anymore. I had to have my thyroid removed because I had thyroid cancer when I was 30.
Oh, wow.
So unless I can learn how to like desiccate cow thymus and dose it, I'm probably not making it anyway. So
It won't be for lack of trying. I'll be getting all those thymuses.
we'll figure it out.
You'll be like in some Mad Max thing where people bring you from far and wide. They bring you, what did you say? Was it cow?
Thymus.
Thymus. What
Thyroid,
is that?
It's the thyroid gland of a cow. Because I take synthetic thyroid hormones,
Yeah.
but there's a natural brand of thyroid hormone that's made from cow thyroid, and it's
Wow.
desiccated and dosed. And you take thyroid hormones not in milligrams, but in micrograms.
Wow.
So I always joke that, like, one cow thymus could probably last me a couple of years.
It'll
with
keep you
those
going for a while.
doses.
I think if you
I
don't really
saute
know.
it with a little butter, it'd be great.
Probably fine.
My flatmate, or the guy who owns the house that I live in, he had is it like Legionnaire's disease, I think, maybe, which affects your thyroid, and
Maybe.
he was telling me that I think in some cases it can sort of heal itself, and that's the case that happened with him, is it kind of fixed itself. But there was a time where he just texted me out of nowhere, and he's like, "Hey, if I eat too many carbs, my legs stop working. Do you think that's something to be worried about?" And I said, "What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean your legs stop working?" And he just would lose muscle strength in his legs. And he got really, really skinny at that point, I think, because is your thyroid something to do with maybe like weight gain or weight loss or something like that as well?
Yeah, it
Regulates
basically
a lot of
controls
hormones.
all of your metabolic functions in your body.
Wow. Yeah, so that would explain why he got quite skinny, because I think his thyroid was maybe overproducing or something. And yeah, he's all good now, but I just remember it sort of just went away on its own. So yeah.
Well, that's cool
Well, good
for
for
him.
him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, very lucky. I think we'll finish on this last question and then we'll get some plugs in. So if you could ask anybody from history a question and they had to answer honestly, is there anybody that you would like to ask something?
Oh boy.
Yeah. It could be people, just people from your lives. Doesn't have to be historical figures. Could be someone that you knew at some point.
Who's
Am
that
I allowed
guy?
to go back and ask true crime victims who?
Yeah, of
You're
course
allowed
you
to do
can.
whatever you want. Go
Yeah, whatever
ahead.
you want. You could
I
ask who
want to know
started
who.
the Chicago fire.
Uh, no, I'm not as worried about that.
Not as
I
not
want
into
to
that.
know. I want to know who killed John Benet Ramsey, like everybody else.
Ah, yes. That was a big case over there, wasn't it?
It's still big because
Yeah.
like over the summer, I think, or maybe in the beginning of the fall, that new documentary came out, and yeah.
And
I
so
mean,
it's sort of,
obviously, I would want to solve all of the unsolved true crime cases. That's
yeah,
just the one that hit my head first because
yeah,
there's Madeline McCann, there's was it I don't even know. I'm not going to sit here and
yeah.
list them all, but there's tons of people that I would like to know
Find
exactly
out
what
what happened.
happened.
Yeah. And then what about you, Leyland?
I don't know. I want to say something stupid like asking George Lucas who really shot first, something.
Yeah. Wow, that you would solve a lot of internet debates by doing that. So it's still worth doing. Alrighty, so thanks so much for joining me, guys. Let's get some plugs in. So your podcast is called Crime to Burn, and I would imagine it's on all good podcatchers. You're also quite active on TikTok, I think, April.
Yes, I'm on TikTok, Instagram. I am still on X, and I do have a Facebook page. I'm most active on Instagram,
Uh-huh.
and we have a YouTube channel too, so you can find us on YouTube also.
Awesome. I'll chuck as many links as I can into like the show notes. I'm just going to quickly remind myself when this episode is going to drop. So it's going to drop at the end of April. Do you know if you have anything that people can look out for at the end of April? Oh, April. Yeah, yeah.
So
Hopefully
I
not the
don't.
end of April.
No, hopefully not the end of
I-
April.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I really fly by the seat of my pants. Like
Mhm.
I have so many fires in my head that I can't tell you exactly what we're going to be doing yet at the end of April, but I can tell you because if people haven't listened yet, they might want to go back and hear this one
Yeah,
because it's going to
absolutely.
be starting this Monday. We're going to be covering a Sydney, Australia case. So
Oh,
closer to your neck of the woods. I bet
very,
you can
yeah.
probably guess what famous fire it might be.
Oh, okay. Is it those
Way to put him on the
bushfires that they
spot.
had like a couple of years ago?
It occurred in 1979.
Oh, okay. What was was it like the Opera House burned down or something?
No, it was the Luna Park, the Sydney ghost train fire.
Okay, yes, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kiwi listeners, check that out. It'll definitely be out by the time this episode drops. Is Luna Park still operating today?
No.
Yeah. Did that finish them?
Well, no. So I'm going to cover it all in the podcast, but it was
Yeah.
actually, it was originally deemed an accident. And there was actually a documentary that came out, I think in 2021 or 2022. And they really dug into it and they found a lot of connections to organized crime. And they actually found people that were willing to say that, yeah, it was an intentional arson
Oh my
in order
goodness.
for Abe Saffron, who was this big wig in organized crime, that there is allegations with some admittedly circumstantial evidence that supports that it was intended for him to be able to get the lease tenders for that property because it's right across from Sydney Opera House. It's like prime real estate.
Yeah.
And the company that did win the tendered lease was his cousin's.
Oh,
So
that is dodgy,
it adds
isn't
up.
it? It does. That sounds like a great listen. It sounds really good. So looking forward to that. Is anything else you'd like to get out to the world before we wrap up?
You
You
check
want to say
your
anything
smoke
about
detector
the
batteries.
You want to say anything about the Innocence Project?
Oh,
The
yes.
whatnot?
So one of the biggest problems that we see when in arson specifically
Mhm.
in the justice system is that because of the way that arson was investigated here in the United States before, the late 90s, early 2000s, fire investigators were taught to look for a specific list of fire signatures. And they were told when they see these fire signatures, it has to be arson because an accelerant was used. And all of these have now been debunked in lab testing as not true. So, I've covered several wrongful conviction cases of people that spent, decades in prison for fires that were actually accidental because they were misclassified as arson. And that's really sort of where I want to focus most of my attention with the podcast, because that's where we can still do good. People need to learn about this because there's probably still a lot of people sitting in prison wrongfully. So, when you look at any of our wrongful conviction cases, we have links in the show notes for how you can get involved to help support innocence projects. And you don't just need to be a financial supporter if that's not something in your wheelhouse right now. You can also volunteer to help fundraise. You can volunteer to help. They have all kinds of different programs and stuff that they put together and they need help. So definitely look in the show notes, get involved with your local innocence projects, and, go and listen to our wrongful conviction cases. I think we have 4 of them right now available on the podcast, and they're all heartbreaking, but there are definitely more people that are probably waiting for innocence projects to just pick up their cases because they're sitting there wrongfully accused of arson.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a great way to feel like you're doing some good in the world. So, but well done. I think it's a really good way to use your the platform you're building here. So, let's wrap it up there. Appreciate you both of your time, and just keep up the good work. I'm a big fan of what you guys do.
Yeah, it was great to meet you, man. I've listened to your show a bit too, and I like it. So keep up your good work as well.
I will do my best.
Yeah. And thank you so much for having us.
Of course. It was nice to kind of chat face to face. I think we've probably exchanged a bunch of messages in that group of podcasters, but nice to just talk to you both kind of, face-ish to face. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Ruddle Me This. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can find me on social media at Taylor Ruddle Comedy on all the major platforms. You can also join patreon.com/Taylor Ruddle Comedy for free, which gets you access to all sorts of extras and behind the scenes content, as well as allows you to communicate directly with me and let me know what you think of the show. Tune in again next Monday for another episode of Ruddle Me This, and until then, Ruddle her out.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.
Hey Ruddlers, I joined a group of podcasters that we are calling the Trailer Alliance, a group of podcasters that share each other's trailers at the end of the episodes and generally support each other. So at the end of each episode for the next few weeks, I'm going to be playing a trailer of one of the members of the Trailer Alliance. And here's one of them now. I hope you like it.
Top of the day, everyone. I'm Nisha.
And I'm Buddha Badass.
And we're the hosts of Hot Garbage True Crime Edition. Do you guys like true crime?
I really don't. I feel like you force me on this show every freaking time I come here.
Do you guys enjoy listening to victims and murderers and grotesque stuff?
People that are sick in the freaking head. That's who likes it. That's who likes it.
Well, if you like that kind of stuff, then you should totally check us out. I mean, every single Thursday, we drop the most hottest cases, and we have fun while doing it.
You drop the most hottest cases? You drop murder and death. Kill.
How many people can actually say that they have fun while listening to a true crime podcast? And I feel like that's what we do here.
So you're just not going to listen to me now? I'm just going to say this and you're not going to listen to me?
And you know what? Our listeners are not just our listeners, but they're our friends and our trash pandas. We love you guys.
They're a lot, and I will agree to that part, but I'm still just mad at you for just not talking to me. They're paying you this well to say all this.
So check out Hot Garbage on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Check us out every single Thursday. A new episode drops.
I officially hate this commercial. On some real.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.